The U.S. added 4.8 million jobs in June, but that data was compiled before the coronavirus spikes that started mid-month. Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics, joins us now from Philadelphia this morning. Good morning to you, Mark.
Good morning, Margaret.
You had already predicted this would be the shortest but arguably most severe recession in history. What did we learn from the data we got this week?
Well, it was good, about as good as you could expect. Almost 5 million jobs were created during the month. That's on top of 2.7 million in the month of May. So we've gotten about a third of the jobs back that we lost in March and April. Unemployment declined. Properly measured, it's about 12%. Hard to imagine that that's a good number, but it is a good number compared to 20%, which we got in April. That was the peak. But here's the thing, Margaret, the unfortunate thing, the unexpected better economic news is the result of the very rapid increase in business reopenings. Too fast, because now the virus is re-intensifying and the pandemic is raging in a lot of key states across the country. They're pulling back, and that's not in the data yet. That's coming down the road. So I fear that the best economic news was in June, and as we look to July and going forward, the job statistics are going to look meaningfully worse. The pandemic is a real issue now.
And these states that are seeing these spikes are important to the U.S. economy, very large economies, Texas, California, Florida. How much do you expect to see consumers pull back?
They're big. I mean, if you add up California, Texas, Florida, let's throw in Arizona, you're now talking about over a fifth of the economy, probably closer to a third of the economy right there. And I do expect that we're going to see pullbacks by businesses in those states. And here's the thing. It's not just businesses that are directly impacted. It's not just restaurants and retailers. I think all businesses are going to be nervous about the uncertainty that this all creates. And so they're going to become even more cautious in hiring back workers. And then, of course, you've got consumers, you
right.
and I. We already had one hand on the bunker. I can't imagine that many of us aren't going to go right back into the bunker as a result of all this and wait this out. So this is very disconcerting. And if Dr. Fauci is right and we're headed towards 100,000 per day, I think the prospects of going back into recession are pretty high.
Well, we know certainly at the White House and on Capitol Hill, they're going to have to take a look at what kind of emergency aid will need to be provided in light of some of this changing information that we're receiving. In your view, do you think Congress needs to provide some kind of help to American families? 80 million Americans have children under the age of 18. They can't necessarily send them back to school in the summer, maybe not in the fall. Childcare is also in question. How important is it to address that specific challenge?
It's absolutely critical. If Congress and the administration don't get it together in the next few weeks before Congress goes away on its August recess, I fear we're going back into recession because the economy needs a lot of help. And you point out there's a lot of, even though unemployment's back down, if you add up folks that are unemployed, people who have got their hours cut, that they're still working, but they got their hours cut, and then consider those folks that are still working, haven't gotten their hours cut, but got their pay cut, you're talking about a third of all American workers that are still struggling here. And if they don't get some additional help on, and as you know, the unemployment insurance expansion that was part of
right.
the original help to the economy is going away in 2 to 3 weeks. So if Congress and administration don't figure out how to provide more help to these folks, they're going to have absolutely no choice but to stop paying bills, cut spending, and the economy is really going to struggle. Here's the other thing. State and local governments are hemorrhaging red ink, right? So every state and local government across the country, it doesn't matter whether you're in a Republican state or a Democratic state, you're hemorrhaging red ink, and they're slashing payrolls. And these are middle income jobs. They're teachers, they're fire, they're police, they're emergency responders. These are the kinds of folks we need working at any time, but particularly in a pandemic. So it's just absolutely critical that Congress doesn't take the wrong message from the June jobs number and says, okay, mission accomplished, we're okay here. We're far from it. They need to provide a lot more help, and very soon.
But what about the specific child care issue? How does Congress solve that?
Well, you're right. They have to provide support through to support for childcare on the other side of during the pandemic, and once schools during the summer, and if schools don't reopen. So there has to be additional support there. There's different ways of providing that support. Direct aid to people who are unemployed, or through unemployment insurance, or through the tax code. There's a child tax credit that could be used to make it refundable to different households so that they can get cash back if they have child care needs. But all those things need to be part of any additional support that Congress comes forward with, and hopefully again they come forward with that quickly here.
And we'll be covering it. Mark Zandi, thank you.